Welcome to the Project with Sam and Lewis, the podcast with the mission to cover every project throughout pop culture and history. I'm Sam.
And I'm Lewis.
And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Jackie Chan Adventures episode, Project A for Astral.
We certainly are. After watching the two Project A films, I was quite looking forward to watching this.
I didn't make the connection with the title until we were sat down to, well, not together, sat down to watch it. I thought, oh yeah, that's what that is, because I'd made the list before and hadn't really made the connection.
Yeah.
Immediately, there's a little bit of trivia there.
I think that's my one bit of trivia.
We'll go over it again. Before we get into anything, if you want to skip ahead, we've got time codes in the episode description. But how are you today, Lewis?
Yeah, I am pretty good.
Yeah.
It's because of various plans and stuff, we're recording pretty soon after the last one.
Yeah.
And between that, I listened to the episode before.
Okay.
So I'm a bit kind of like, I don't know what we've spoken about or what I've been doing or what. So let's just say I'm good.
Good. Yeah, good.
How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, going on holiday tomorrow, hence the plans, etc. that you mentioned. So yeah, we're getting an episode in so that you guys don't miss a week there. It's all for you.
Can't let down the listeners.
But yeah, I'm good. Weather's pretty nice today. Kind of, you were just saying, Lewis, it's one of the lightest it's been for recording since we recorded over the summer.
Yeah, since the early days of the pod, back when we were young'uns.
Back in the good old days.
Yeah. But now we're on what, episode 30 something?
36, I think this will be.
Bloody hell.
I may be wrong there. 37.
There we go.
That's what happens when you record a couple in a week. Yeah.
We've just recorded so many, it's hard to keep track.
I know.
To be honest, after about like 15, I think I forgot what number
we were talking about Shadow Chaser in the Shadow Chaser 2 episode, which you'll have listened to by now probably. And we were like, oh, I think it was like at some point, it was our 20th episode. So it was like 15 episodes before.
Okay.
16 episodes before. Yeah, which is quite a while. 16 weeks or so with Christmas breaks as well. So
that is quite a long time.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't be as long until Shadow Chaser 3.
Well, hopefully not. First segment, Lewis.
Yes. Project news. That was a bad one.
That's all right.
Yeah, I was kind of a bit stuck there. But Project news. I've got 2 bits of Project news pretty quickly this week. Usually I spend hours and hours scrolling through the internet trying to find something worthy of the pod.
Absolutely.
So the first one from BBC News. You may have heard of it.
No.
Amazon secures projects for broadband projects.
Wait, projects for projects.
For broadband project.
What's a project?
Project.
Projects for broadband projects.
No, Amazon secures rockets.
You said projects.
Let's try that again. Amazon secures Amazon secures rockets for broadband project.
Wow.
Project and rocket are too similar.
Projects.
So over the next 5 years, 3 new heavy lift rockets will put thousands of satellites into low orbit.
Wow.
As part of Amazon's Project Kuiper. Might be a reference to that Kuiper guy that came up in the Project A119
you know
episode.
What? It absolutely will be. Fantastic.
It doesn't say anything in here. Maybe I'll have to look into that.
We've got an alumni in reference there.
Oh, I've got a bit about alumni today.
I have as well, yeah.
Yeah, basically they're providing broadband connections using constellation of 3,236 satellites.
Bloody hell. It's a bit like the, I was going to say Skynet. What's, a bit like Skynet, but what's Elon Musk's Starlink?
Like Elon Musk's Starlink.
There you go.
Users will connect to the internet via a terminal that communicates with satellites.
Cool.
I'm not sure how exactly it's going to work, but it's just things like something else to make Amazon rich.
Yeah, and take over the stratosphere there as well.
Yeah, so woohoo, go billionaires.
Woo.
Yeah, so that is like something we'll probably hear hear about in the future.
Yeah, we'll probably be covering that as we go on, whether you like it or not.
Over the next 5 years. So in 5 years' time, remember where you heard it first. The project. When you like Project Kuiper, there was that podcast before the two hosts tragically died.
Oh no,
there's that podcast about projects. I wonder if they mentioned
well,
it.
That would
We
put us
did.
on the map, wouldn't it? At least.
Yeah, the good old murder suicide. I won't say which is which.
We've watched too many episodes of
what?
Any anime, I suppose.
And the other bit is from The Guardian.
Ooh.
Project Dictator review. Meta clowning lays bare real terror.
Wow, that's
a sentence. that's why I chose it.
So which part is what? Say that again.
So
Project Dictator.
Project Dictator is a play on in London.
I see.
And The Guardian describe it as meta clowning lays bare real terror.
Right.
They've given it 3 stars out of 5.
Okay. So it's a classic project then, isn't it? 3 out of 5.
Yeah. So it's a political sketch that kind of gets silly and gets a bit absurdist.
Right.
And it seems it's like a 2-man show by the looks of it. It's a bit all over the place, but it just seems like it's a weird little thing.
Yeah.
And they've said it's good when it's good, and it's kind of falls flat when it's not so good. It's the general gist of it. Music performed live by Syrian jazz musician Khaled Kerber.
Nice.
Suddenly becomes stranger, scarier, and ensnaring as it progresses.
Wow.
We watch the clowns apply their makeup, and as the white powder swiftly covers over their features, disappear almost completely.
Oh, so it's literal clowning then?
Yeah.
Wow.
Literal clowning, but like as a political kind of satire.
Right. Okay. So they're playing like politicians or some sort of satirical figures, and then end up with clown makeup on.
Becoming I imagine like the gist of it is,
unless that's a metaphor that
it's like look how ridiculous politicians are, and they get more and more silly.
Right.
But yeah, I thought considering there's a play on in London with project in the title, we're not going to go to the theatre, so this is our way of covering it.
I mean, if it's on at a time when we have availability, or if anyone part of the play wants to send some comp tickets our way, we'll cover it for the. Maybe we could reach out to them, say we get journalist passes. We might actually be able to do that.
We probably could, to be honest. Maybe we'll.
Does it say at the bottom how long it's running for? If it's running for a little while.
Project Dictator is at the New Diorama Theatre, London, until the 30th of April.
Oh, so it's finished. No, it's not finished, but we won't get a chance, really.
Let me have a look.
We might have a week or so afterwards.
Yeah, we might have. We'll have like a week.
We could send something from the email, see what happens.
Yeah, I think that would be quite.
If we pay for our own transport, we get free tickets.
That would be great.
The first time it will pay off this damn podcast. Apart from everyone, all the lovely things people say and all the reviews and
that would be fun. Could you imagine?
We'd be sat like front row, get squirted by the clowns.
With our little notepads, just making notes as we go through.
We could do little dictaphones and be like, clowns.
Well, no, we can't talk during the theatre.
Whisper into it.
I think we're better off writing it down.
Yeah, but then it looks like, I suppose if we could have press passes.
Press passes with the little project logo on it.
Don't get my hopes up.
We're making it to the big time, Sam. Watch out, Joe Rogan. I bet Joe Rogan's never been offered seats at the theatre in London.
Yeah. Not that he'd want to go. Unless it was a thing about weed, eh?
Oh, he loves his weed. But yeah, so that is the project news for the week. So we are looking at an episode of Jackie Chan Adventures, as you said, from the year 2000. Project A for Astral.
From the first season, I think. It's like
it's like episode 6 or something.
Yeah, it's quite early on.
It's also got our shortest ever Google description.
Right. The episode or the whole thing?
The episode.
Right.
Jade tries to discover a talisman's secrets.
Wow. That is, I guess it's pretty vague for a reason.
Yeah, and that is pretty much the episode.
Yeah, I mean the description for the whole thing
Yeah, I've got that
You
here.
got that as well? Yeah,
Yeah,
go for it.
when
yeah.
Jackie Chan, a skilled martial artist, finds a talisman, he attracts the attention of a criminal organization. He and his family must do what it takes to defend themselves against it.
Yeah, I mean you probably picked up parts of it from the episode, although we kind of dropped in it. He's like a archaeologist as well as like a martial artist.
Yeah,
And yeah, I'll talk about it more as we go on. I watched it a lot as a kid. So
I've never seen it before.
Yeah, I've watched. I don't know if I've watched every episode because it's one of those ones where it's like 90 odd episodes and it kind of changes
Yeah.
the focus as it goes on and stuff. But the first season is all about these talismans, and they're all based on the Chinese zodiac symbols. So it's different animals and they've all got different abilities.
Yeah, okay.
And yeah, for at least for most of the first season, they're trying to track down different talismans and stuff like that.
Right. So it was created by three people who I've got here. John Rogers,
Yep.
who is best known for co-writing the films Catwoman and Transformers.
Wow.
So
this is the best thing he's ever done then, basically.
Yeah, unless there's some other stuff that I haven't heard of that is really good. We've got Dwayne Capizzi,
Right.
who did the Elf animated series.
Wow, didn't even know that was the thing.
The Mask animated series.
Okay.
The Men in Black animated series.
Right. Can see a little
And the Batman 2004 to 2006 animated series.
just called,
The Batman.
Oh, it's quite decent. Similar. That's very similar animation style to this, actually.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like to be a specialist in like adapting big franchises into animated series. And then the final one is Jeff Kline, who was executive producer on the Transformers cartoons in the 90s.
Right, yeah.
And worked on the Godzilla animated series.
Which we spoke about a couple of episodes ago. Yeah,
there's lots of like crossover and a lot of like the cast members crossover and stuff. It's just like the popular animated crew of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the cast, Jackie Chan, although it's not all the time, he just steps in at points. Jackie Chan
I didn't know this until I looked it up after this, even though it's kind of obvious listening to it.
Yeah. So Jackie Chan's played by James C.
Yeah.
He's done load of voice work, including he was Monkey in the Kung Fu animated shorts, who's originally voiced by Jackie Chan in the films.
Oh, Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, what did I say?
Kung Fu.
Kung Fu Panda.
Right,
yeah.
Okay, so he's got a bit of a thing going there.
He's got a thing for Jackie Chan. So yeah, Jackie Chan doesn't play Jackie Chan.
No.
But he's an executive producer and
he's
comes
involved,
in bits and
so he's in the opening sequence, which we'll talk about in a moment, where there's live action flashes of him.
Yeah.
And then he does the thing that we've covered on a couple of episodes of cartoon things. They have a little add-on bit epilogue. With this, it's Q&As with Jackie, and that's all
I didn't
live
see
action.
that for this episode.
Oh, did you not see it? No,
no. I think the copy I watched literally cut.
Oh, I've got the question and the answer.
Cool,
so I can go through that. But it's him he's normally doing a little like spa or a workout, and then it's the voice of Jade, who you'll talk about in a sec, asking him a question which I think has been written in by somebody, and then he answers it to camera, kind of thing. So
right, okay. So we've also got Shav Shimino, who plays Jackie Chan's uncle.
Right, yes.
Who was in Waterworld.
Right, okay.
He voices the Emperor in Samurai Jack.
Right.
And he voices Mr. Sparkle in the Simpsons episode. Mr. Sparkle.
Right, okay.
So he's kind of like the East Asian old man voice.
Because Shimono is a Japanese surname, isn't it? So he's and makes sense, Mr. Sparkle and Emperor, and yes, he's probably, even though he's playing a Chinese character in this, like you say, it's
but I guess because he's done voice work, he was just a kind of a natural choice. We've also got Clancy Brown.
That's what I was gonna say.
We'll
Project
get to the
alumni
in a bit, but obviously Clancy Brown's Clancy Brown. We know him. Shawshank Redemption, SpongeBob. We mentioned last time. It was literally just a couple of weeks ago. He was in Laramie Project.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I won't go too much to him. We've got Adam Baldwin.
Yeah. Is he related to the other Baldwins?
I don't think so.
No.
He was in Full Metal Jacket. He was in Independence Day. He's in the Zeta Project.
Oh, really?
In one episode that we haven't got to yet.
Okay, cool.
So episode 9. We'll get to that when we get to that. And he was also been credited with coining the term Gamergate.
Wow. Okay.
Because he was a big supporter of Gamergate.
Wow. Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah. We've got Miguel Sandoval, who's done loads of voice work.
Right.
But you may recognize him from Jurassic Park as the archaeologist that finds the mosquito at the start.
Oh, really? Okay. I
He's
might
that
recognize
guy.
him. Okay.
We got Susan Eisenberg, who's done loads of voice work. She often voices Wonder Woman in animated series over the last 20 years. And finally,
I don't think she's in this episode.
Quite possibly not. And also don't think it's in this episode. It's John DiMaggio.
Yeah, I don't think he is. I'm not sure who he plays in this.
Who we'd know as Bender in Futurama, Frank, Jake the dog,
Frank the dog
in Adventure Time, and a bunch of other voice work. So yeah, the project alumni.
Yes.
So before this, we only had one real candidate in Amy Landecker.
Yes.
Who was in Project Power and Project Almanac.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
As a side point, we've got Bob Gunton, who was in Project Lazarus and Project Blue Book, but not the Project Blue Book episode we watched.
Right. So it's a half kind of.
So I don't really count.
No,
him.
I wouldn't know.
But now, and see, I guess Jackie Chan now is in the alumni.
So technically, he's done 3 so far.
Yeah, but I think we can't count sequels as the alumni. Otherwise, Frank Zangarino's in the alumni.
That's true. I mean, I would say he's definitely in the alumni. He's just not like.
If we're doing like the top tier,
yeah.
Got Amy Landecker.
They're in like the silver tier. Or gold and platinum.
Yeah. Jackie Chan and Clancy Brown.
Yes,
are the 3 top tier Project alumni.
So what's Clancy Brown? Just 2.
Just 2, yeah.
Yeah.
But also Bob Gunton's in the second tier.
Yeah, I would say third tier really because we haven't watched the episode.
Okay,
we could watch it. But it's
Yeah.
not on the project alumni.
And also in that third tier is Michael Rosenbaum, who's in the Zeta Project and is in season 4 of Jackie Chan Adventures.
Right. Okay.
So he is in this, but not in what we watch. So we'll put him in that third tier.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see a massive expansion of the Project alumni.
I know.
With
Well,
this.
Clancy Brown could well turn up again, especially in animated series.
Yeah.
I think because we've got a fair few of this kind of era to come up. Haven't
Yeah,
we?
and
Cartoon Networky kind of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised.
And Adam Baldwin will become a member of the alumni once we get to episode 9 of Zeta Project.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
He's not yet. He's put in his application. We're doing the processing. We're not quite sure of his outspokenness on certain things, but
that's the other thing. I feel like we have to take that into consideration.
But yeah, so that is the cast.
You didn't mention Stacey Chan, but
Stacey Chan, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, who is plays Jade in this. No relation to Jackie Chan. From
No,
what I can see.
yeah. Weirdly.
Even though the characters are related, I thought, it would be interesting if they were as well, but no.
I think I saw Lucy Liu plays an older version of Jade in like flash forward episodes.
Really? That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to this show, and there's 5 seasons. I think 95 episodes I've got here.
Animated series don't last that long if they haven't got something to them.
Yeah, there's a good kind of lore and stuff which you see. There's some good kind of peeks into it in this episode. I'd say. Despite it not being the best representation of what the show is, I don't think, but we'll talk about it as we kind of move through it.
So before we get into it, IMDb rating of 7.3.
Right. Okay.
So,
do you know what the show had as a whole?
I
can get it up on here because I
don't. Yeah,
I reckon it will be high. Oh no, 7.4. Wow.
Oh, there you go. I think like as we've kind of spoken about before, TV series tend to get better ratings because only the diehards watch every episode.
Yeah.
Especially kids shows will probably get higher, so 7.3. Yeah, I'm not really surprised by that.
Jackie Chan Adventures. I'm just having a look on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I didn't check that because I don't know if they do like kids TV and Rotten Tomatoes.
It doesn't look like there's much on here. Enable ads. Oh, come on. Get out there.
Oh yes, enabling those ads.
No averages from the looks of things. So that's a shame.
So let's get into the episode. It's only like 20 minutes long, so we have plenty to
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about.
we've got plenty. Yeah, yeah.
So it starts and there's like a train going along. It's like a
Cargo kind
cargo
of train,
train.
like a
There's
freight train.
and there's
I think it says to Istanbul on one of the boxes.
the
so-
boxes are labeled Istanbul, and Jackie opens it up
Yeah.
and finds something.
Yeah,
It turns out to be one of these talisman.
yeah, and it's the one with the little sheep on it, and he says,
At this point, would you recognize it?
So
in the
basically,
show?
so in the first episode, everything's kind of laid out as they do with these things. We get the introduction of all the major kind of players. Jade, who we'll meet, comes to America to stay with Jackie, which is why she's still kind of new in this episode when we meet her. And the plot gets set in motion and they find the very first talisman in that, but it's still a bit of a mystery, which is why we get some exposition in this.
Right, okay, cool.
And he says, Jackie had a little lamb when he gets it out of the box.
Yeah. And then bunch of ninjas arrive.
So they're called Shadow Khan, I think they're called, for whatever reason. They're basically just magical ninjas.
And they like throw some stars at him.
Yeah.
And they like fight for it. Jackie Chan does some like classic Jackie Chan
He's
stuff.
got like the crowbar in the crate.
Yeah, and he like picking up the box to like defend himself, and it's slowly being cut away until he's just holding like a middle plank.
Yeah.
I was like, it's very, very Jackie.
They're using that kind of stuff, yeah.
And it's kind of consistent throughout. There's lots of bits I'm like, that's very Jackie Chan.
That's the cool. And the thing that's really interesting that we'll see coming up is they use the cartoon to its full extent. And I think one of the first things he talks about in these after mini interview things in one of the first episodes from memory is he says one of the reasons he wanted to do it is to expand on this kind of wacky action to this kind of superhuman almost extent, which we see almost immediately because he's up on the roof, he's fighting them with the talisman in his hands,
and then he gets like a phone call,
and it's Jade on the phone too.
And she's complaining about Uncle Chan, and he's kind of like, while he's like fighting, he's like, now's not the time.
Because I think she starts like, help, and then he's like, what's up, Jade? He's like, Uncle is just
cooking dinner or something.
It's with mung beans and stuff like that. And she wants to go to like some theme park or something.
And in this like commotion, the ninjas get the talisman. And then like a helicopter arrives and they jump on it.
There's a couple of the other main henchmen are on the helicopter and they get the talisman. And
they shoot in a classic way, because any scene on a train, they shoot the bridge and it falls down and the train's hurtling towards it. And Jackie like runs to the front, grabs the driver and throws him out the window.
It's just like this old guy who's like, ah!
And I was like, it's a good job this is a cargo train, there's only one person.
It's helpful, isn't it?
And then it like goes off this bridge that's collapsed, and Jackie's like running up the train.
It cuts to the opening as it's kind of plummeting off. It's about to plummet off, it cuts to the opening.
Right.
Or maybe it's even as the missiles take out the bridge, but either way, we get this opening, which, you can watch on YouTube. We watched a couple of minutes ago. And did you not get it at that point?
I think I skipped the intro.
Oh, did you? Well, it was that intro with the music that we saw. So it's like a kind of like guitar-y, kind of funky guitar.
We see Jackie and the cartoon Jackie like doing the same stuff.
It's going from one to the other, and in the theme he's kind of globe trotting. He's like sliding down the pyramids and like I think down the Eiffel Tower and stuff. It's very exaggerated kind of stuff. And it's kind of like a mini summary where he keeps grabbing talismans and stuff. Then we cut back, train goes off the chasm and
he's running up the
he runs up from the start, the full length of the train.
As it's falling.
We're
getting close at one point and he's like barely moving, but it's because he's running up the train.
And the henchmen are up there and one of them's like, there's no way he's human. And they're just like in awe of him all the time.
And he gets to the end and jumps and just clings onto the edge of the bridge.
Just the very edge, And then somehow he gets on the chopper. They're like going past.
And he just jumps into the helicopter.
He manages to get on. Oh, he gets on the bottom, doesn't he? And they're like, oh, we got away from him.
But he's holding the landing bit. Gets in and fights some people.
The one who's played by Clancy Brown gets like a laser sword thing and starts like slashing. And just like breaks the controls because he's like a dummy.
And Jackie's grabbed the talisman back.
yeah.
I've written rock for the first
Oh,
half of this
right,
because I
they
didn't know what it was.
Yeah, okay.
And yeah, the sword hits the controls, so the helicopter's going down, and he grabs like a rope and just swings down calmly and lands like on the ground.
And we don't see it crash, do we? It just goes away.
No, and the two henchmen turn up later on, so I assume they didn't crash.
Yeah, they're kind of throughout all of it, really.
Yeah. So yeah, then Jackie gets home.
Yeah, it's San Francisco, which we don't see in this, but it is
right,
it's supposed to be San Francisco. That they Uncle's got a little antique shop which he runs, but then is also
very similar in Gilmore Girls. Rory's best friend Lane, her mum, also of East Asian descent,
it's a bit of
owns an antique shop.
It's a bit of a thing in this kind of era, I think. Asian people love antiques.
Yeah.
Or it's because they can like play up to the stereotype a bit when they're selling to rich people, probably.
Yeah, I guess.
So.
Yeah, that made me laugh. I was like, oh, it's like Gilmore Girls. Everything comes
boys.
back to Gilmore Boys.
So Jade is like, so Jade is Jackie's niece.
Yeah.
She's come from Hong Kong, but she's got an American accent because I guess she's from Hong Kong. That might make sense.
I guess.
And she's come to stay with them at the start. She's like Jackie's sister's kid or something we never see.
Yeah.
She just stays with them throughout.
So she's living with her uncle, who's living with his uncle.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like a diagonal of relations.
Of uncles.
Yeah. And the uncle wants to immediately research the rock, the talisman.
Yeah, so Jackie's knackered because he's come straight back from his expedition.
I felt so sorry for Jackie in this episode.
He really wants to go to sleep, and then Uncle's no, you have to research the talisman. Even though Uncle could do it. He's so stupid.
He says he's been up for like 18 hours, including fighting off a bunch of ninjas.
And Jade I think this is maybe when she says she wants to go to Melvin World, which is some sort of like moose mascot thing.
And yeah, she's like dragging Jackie one way, and the uncle's dragging him the other way, and he's just like falling asleep in between. Yeah.
And they mention at some point, Uncle's like, "Oh, you can't go to sleep, you sleepwalk," and he's like, "I don't sleepwalk." And then they don't know the power of the talisman because at this point, I think so. This is like episode 6 or 7. Did you say?
I think it's 6. Yeah,
6. So there's at least 2 or 3 talismans so far, which they know have powers. So they need to research what the power is, basically.
Yeah. And then we then get introduced to the bad guy.
Yes.
Who's like a stone snake on the wall that can talk.
Yeah, so we get
his backstory.
We get
a thing
now. I think it's pretty much now.
Oh yeah.
Basically, the henchmen turn up and they're like, "Oh, sorry, we don't have a talisman."
And he's complaining about Jackie having talisman, and he doesn't have any.
Yeah, he's called Shendu, and so basically, there's this organization called the Black Hand.
Yeah,
and the guy with the white hair is called Valmont, and he's like the kingpin of the Black Hands.
This seems reminiscent of something.
And then he's got the henchmen, and for some reason he's got this ancient dragon sorcerer that's like promised him wealth if he looks after him, basically.
Right, yeah.
And he does a little backstory, Shendu, doesn't he?
Yeah, he says he's not just a statue, he's actually a demon warrior.
Yeah.
He built up this big empire through his strength and magic, but then he was betrayed by his own people who trapped him in a statue, and he's been there for 900 years.
That's right.
And he was held in there by the talisman that have been scattered around the world.
Yeah.
And if he collects all the talisman, then he's free.
So he had 12 kind of powers, basically.
It's very like Horcruxy.
Yes, it's very. So at the time, I remember this and like things like Bionicle and stuff like that. There's lots of stuff where it's almost designed in a like you can collect these toys kind of thing.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And I always used to love that kind of thing. It's like there's a fire guy and there's kind of like X-Men a bit as well.
Yeah,
and it's kind of not in the Horcruxy way, but it kind of plays into that thing of like different abilities, very much segmented and organized kind of thing. And one of the bad guys says like, "Oh, you got jacked," when he says about it. I thought that was silly.
And then we're back in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And the uncle is researching the talisman whilst Jackie is like asleep on a chair.
Yeah.
And whilst they're doing that, Jade takes the talisman. She's like, "Oh, I can figure out what it does.
Yeah, they say, I think someone says, "Oh, put it in this box while we're not using it," but it's literally
Yeah.
just like an unlocked locked box.
Yeah.
Box. Yeah, Jade steals it, and she's trying to like activate it, isn't she?
Yeah, she's like smashing it on the floor, like biting it in with a hammer, and
She does like some meditating.
yeah, and then eventually she goes, "Work already," and it lights up, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty easy." Yeah, and then she like astral projects essentially.
Yeah.
Hence why it's called Project A for Astral. But you know, very like Doctor Strange kind of.
Yeah, it's almost
like,
exactly
her
that,
body's
isn't it?
like flopped, and she's essentially like a ghost that can see her body. And she's like, "Oh, that sounds fun." And she realizes that it's like a ghost talisman.
Yeah, she says, "Oh, it's the ghost talisman or something," and she goes down and she tries to like scare Uncle and Jackie, but
yeah. But she's astral projecting rather than a ghost, so she can't actually interact with anything.
Interact with anything, yeah.
So she can't like haunt people.
And I think she says, "Oh, I'm going to go to Melvin World," because they won't let her go, basically.
Yeah.
So she flies off, and then the henchmen arrive because they think they know where Jackie's shop is.
Yeah,
where Uncle's shop is,
which is weird.
A bit of a like liability. I think because he just always fights them every time, so they're a bit like, but they've got this thing which is like a talisman tracker, which they get given in one of the first episodes. It's very like plot thing, but it just like it's like a compass that glows when they're pointing in the right direction.
So they sneak upstairs past the uncle and sleeping Jackie, and they see Jade like asleep with the talisman.
She's just got it in her
because
hands.
her soul's not there. She's off gone to this theme park. And the bad guys take the talisman and go back to their place.
Like, basically
that was easy.
Yeah.
And they put it into the statue.
Well, they say when they're like, "Oh, Jackie like threw a truck at us to like make up this story," don't they? Yeah, and they put it in to the statue, and I think it's the first one that Shendu's got, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah. And I think they said like Jackie's got like 3 or 4 at this point.
Yeah,
and he's like, because he's pissed off at the start, isn't he? He's like, "I want more talismans."
Yeah, and he's like, now he can astral project.
Yeah,
so he's got the power, and he's come up with this plan that he can go into Jade's body.
Yeah, because I think they let slip. Oh, it was easy taking it from a sleeping child.
Yeah. And at this point, I've written down that the girl is called Jade.
Right. Okay.
Jackie finds Jade asleep.
Yeah.
And it's like, looks good to me, and sits on the floor and falls asleep next to her.
Yeah. And as she's coming back from Melvin World because it's boring because she can't do anything there.
Yes.
She's about to go back, and I think she's like looking at Jackie asleep or something, and she's like, "Ah." Oh, because he sees her asleep and he's like, "Ah."
Yeah.
And then she sees him asleep. She's like, "Ah." And then does Shendu just like flies through?
She realizes the talisman's gone and is like, "Oh no." And then Shendu arrives, and
which
she's
just like a snake dragon just flies out.
And she's like, "Oh no." And he kind of pushed her out of the way and goes into her body. And then she can't get into her body because there's already someone in there.
Her eyes like glow red to show that she's like evil.
Every now and then this episode just glows red just to remind you that she's evil.
I don't know if it's actually glowing red or not. I think it's probably just for us, really.
Yeah, and then so how are we going to refer to these characters for the rest of the episode?
Evil Jade and Ghost Jade.
Right, okay.
Or Evil Jade and Jade, I suppose. Or Shendu and Jade. That makes sense.
Yeah, but it's Jade. Like
Jade.
I think Evil Jade and Ghost Jade.
Okay.
Because
ghosts aren't evil. Not always.
You've seen Casper.
Evil little bitch.
The
evil
friendly ghost.
The evil ghost. That's why they have to specify, because ghosts are normally not friendly.
Okay, what about Nearly Headless Nick? He's friendly, and he's not called friendly. He's just friendly.
Yeah. I mean, all the ghosts in Harry Potter are friendly, really. Well, they're all friendly-ish.
Yeah, they kind of go away after the first couple of films, don't they?
Yeah, I was watching the trailer for there's a new Harry Potter game called like World of Hogwarts or something. I don't know what it's
Yeah,
called.
sounds about
It
right.
looks pretty good though. I think it's only on next gen consoles, so I can't get it at the moment. But it looks good. It's set in the late 1800s or early 1800s.
Oh, nice.
And you get to create your own Hogwarts student. You start in like 5th year, so you have a bit of catching up to do. And you go to like classes, and there's like a whole mystery that's completely unrelated to the Grindelwald stuff and the Voldemort stuff,
That's
which is quite
good.
cool. And I think they mention it. What were we talking about? Oh, Nearly Headless Nick's in it.
Oh, is he?
He's in it. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
And Moanin Myrtle's not dead at this point.
No,
because she died in the 50s.
Yeah, when
Hagrid and Tom Riddle were at school.
Yeah. This is probably a question more for Silver Screen Project, but why is Dumbledore so old?
Because he's a wizard.
Yeah, I know, but there's other people. They don't all live like 300 years, do they?
He's not 300 years old.
Is he not?
He's like 120.
Right, okay. For some reason, I thought he was... Because when we were discussing about the age difference between like Jude Law and...
Yeah, but obviously Harry Potter, the films are set in the 90s.
Yes, yeah.
So it's like 70 years after Jude Law.
Yeah. Oh, so that kind of does make sense.
Yeah.
But it's just the flashback in Harry Potter that fucks up. But that's something they could edit out.
Jude Law's what, like 30 in that film?
Well, no.
40?
No, he's got a grey beard.
Oh, does he?
Yeah,
he still looks fairly young. That may be because it's just Jude Law.
Yeah, he looks like he's in his 40s or 50s. Yeah.
Okay, but yes, that makes sense. Dumbledore's like
we'll just save all the chat for this episode. But yeah, when we talked about it, I was thinking because Mads Mikkelsen, although we haven't seen that film yet, he's probably in his late 50s. Do you reckon?
No, I was going to say like early 50s. I can quickly.
You have a quick look.
You explain plot.
Yeah, so
we'll go back to.
Well, there is some stuff to talk about here because basically, Jade wakes up Jackie. Evil Jade wakes up Jackie and says we should go to section 13.
Yes,
which is something we don't see in this episode at all.
Mads Mikkelsen's 56.
Cool.
The thing that stood out to me about that is. Sorry, another tangent. Immediately back on a tangent. Is like the secret police in Star Trek Discovery called Section 13.
Okay.
And I was like, that's a weird coincidence.
Well, the guy as well reminds me a little bit of Lex Luthor, Captain Black, because he kind of just looks like him a little bit. But basically, Section 13 are like basically like a Secret Service thing. I think they specialize in like weird stuff. So for some reason, Jackie has like a backstory with Section 13, which we don't hear about.
Yeah.
And him and Captain Black are like friends from then. So when the Talisman stuff starts happening, they get involved and they're looking after the ones that they collect, which is why Evil Jade wants to go to Section 13. And then she starts being nice to Jackie and Uncle. She's like making them snacks and stuff.
Yeah.
And then she's like, please, can we go to Section 13 now?
She makes like orange slices and tea.
Yeah, oolong tea. And then Jackie calls Captain Black and he's like, Jade wants to go to Melvin World because she keeps bothering us. And then he turns up and he's like, your ride's here. And she's like, Evil Jade is like, right, I'm going to Section 13.
Yeah.
And then during this part, there's a whole thing about entering dreams, isn't there?
Yeah.
Uncle finds out about the talisman.
Yeah, so he figures out that the talisman does like astral projection.
Yeah.
And he says that like, oh yeah, they can only be seen in dreams. Which then gives Jade the idea to jump into Jackie's dream.
Yeah, and he's sweeping the store and
he keeps like going to sleep and Uncle wakes him up and he makes him sweep the floor and he falls asleep eventually while sweeping. And Jade jumps into his dream and he's sweeping.
Yeah, he's sweeping and it's like a weird pink kind of neon nightmare.
Yeah.
And at one point he's on the train from the start and he's sweeping. He's like, I have to sweep the train, Jade.
Yeah.
And then and we find out he is walking around while he's doing it, isn't
yeah,
he?
He's doing sleepwalking as we were told. But he kind of won't listen to Jade.
Yeah, he just thinks that she's part of the dream. Well, no, he thinks that he's not dreaming, even though it's obvious to us that he is.
But as he's sweeping, he's sleepwalking and he's walking like up onto the roof of the building and is walking towards the edge.
Yeah.
And she's like, she
she manages to stop him walking, doesn't
Yeah,
she? And he's literally like teetering on the edge with his broom.
Yeah, and she explains everything to
Yeah.
Jackie. He doesn't believe her, and then she's like, "Why are you not wearing pants then?"
Yeah, and it like goes down. He's and then he
Yeah,
covers himself up, and in process falls off the roof, doesn't he?
yeah, but falls into like some trousers that are being like
Well,
hung outside.
while he's falling down, he's still asleep for a bit, and then she manages to wake him up,
Yeah,
and he does some sort of thing off the washing
it's
line,
like a
which is,
classic Jackie Chan stunt.
but very exaggerated,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
And then one thing she says is that like that he's taken a talisman. So when he does wake up, he checks the box,
Yes.
realizes that the dream was real, and
Yeah.
and then he turns to
goes to
Uncle,
tell
is like, this is gonna be crazy, but and then like he's immediately is just like, yeah, okay, cool.
And he says it before him, doesn't he? He's like, what?
Oh, yeah.
Shendu's invaded. Oh no, he's like a demon has invaded Jade's body. And he says something about like a wolf in sheep's clothing, which is very apt. And he says he's going to go research a chi spell while Jackie goes to get Jade's body.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then we're back with Black and Jade.
Yes. Yeah.
Black's put a blindfold on her.
Yeah.
She thinks she's going to Section 13.
Yeah.
But they arrive at this theme park thing. What was it called?
Melvin World. Yeah.
Melvin World.
He's like, a little birdie told me you wanted to come here.
I like Black in this because like he's got the appearance of like an evil henchman, but he's just like a friendly guy.
And when a little bit later they say that it's shutting, he's like, "Ah," like he seems to want to go to it as well. Which is quite cute.
But Jackie calls him as like, Jade's evil, and he's like, I know she's annoying, but she's not that bad.
Yeah, and then there's a bit where they have to pose with like a Melvin doll, and she says something like, "No, soon I will devour your soul."
Before that, we get bits of them on like the roller coaster, and Black is just having the best time. Yeah, Jackie turns up and is like, "Who named this?"
Yeah, because originally he just seems like he's mad because he's not slept very much, and like you said, Captain Black or whatever is just like, "Jackie, you need to go home to sleep," and then. Yeah, he's like, "What's the moose's name?"
Yeah,
and then does she do the shoulder squeeze on them or something?
I don't know, but she basically takes out Black and
there's a guard guy with
a
them,
guard, yeah. And then this bit's funny where like Jackie and Evil Jade both know that both know.
Yeah.
So like they get ready to fight, and he's like, "You can't fight me," and then she like jumps to fight him, and he just like catches her in his arms because
like
she's still got the strength of like a little girl.
Yeah, and she's like, Kirsty's little girl body or something like that.
And Jackie's like, "You get out of the body, and I promise I won't spank you."
and Evil Jay's just like, "Do what you want. It's not my body."
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's quite funny.
It's quite funny. And then there's kind of like a big chase around the place.
She runs off into like the House of Mirrors.
Yeah,
and a bunch of ninjas appear.
They're all in the reflections, and then they like phase out of the walls, which is quite cool. There's lots of stuff not in this episode. I think when you first see them, they kind of like they can move through the shadows almost like Cloak.
Right, yeah.
From Cloak and Dagger. Is that right? Kind of that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Or it's more, but they can kind of appear out of shadows, which is kind of what they're doing with the mirrors, I think. There.
Yeah, and then they all just jump through this hole in the ceiling. I was like, wow, they can all jump really high. Because they don't like jump onto the ledge and pull. They all jump and land on their feet on the ceiling.
There's a bit here where, so they go up like, I think they go up a cardboard cutout of Melvin, and then it all falls down.
Yes.
Onto like a coaster.
Which
roller coaster.
Reminded me of Project A2.
Yeah.
Where the big cardboard wall falls
that's
down.
a little bit like that.
Actually. And I was like, and it's kind of shot the same of like falling towards the camera.
A lot of the trivia that you see says about, there's lots of references throughout, and it mentions the title of this, but it doesn't mention all the specifics.
Yeah.
So that might be something.
That was the only thing that really stood out to me. And I was like, I was kind of expecting it to almost follow it plot-wise, but it doesn't at all.
Yeah, I feel like they could have done a little bit more, but,
Yeah, it would have been hard.
A lot of these things, there's lots of like Bob's Burgers episodes, and the titles are references to films. They probably don't have anything in the episode that's to do with it. It's just a titling kind of little fun thing, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
they're on the roller coaster, and Jackie at one point is like running down like the tracks that are like
Yeah.
super steep.
And
There's a part where he falls off one bit, and it's fucking massive, and he lands, and he just lands.
Yeah.
There's lots of stuff like that where there's just
yeah, he's like constantly fighting these ninjas. And then one of the bad guys turns on the roller coaster.
I think it's Evil Jade is at the control booth.
Is it?
Yeah, because then she jumps in the roller coaster as well.
Oh no, I thought she was in it, and one of the other.
I think she turns it on because I think Good Jade, Ghost Jade, is watching, and it's like, don't do that.
Oh, okay.
Or something, maybe something like
fair
that.
enough. Yeah, and the roller coaster is like swinging around. It's going towards Jackie, and he like dodges it.
Yeah, does he go underneath somehow? Maybe.
Yeah, he drops down like because it's one of those old-fashioned roller coasters. It's all wooden,
like
all
a minecart track almost.
Yeah,
like
and he drops between the gaps and just holds on to the roller coaster.
And I
goes
think he's
over
fighting ninjas while hanging as well.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Shang-Chi, where they're on the scaffolding.
Yeah,
outside
the
fight club.
It's quite similar actually.
It's a lot of like swinging round poles, fighting one person on one level.
Bit, actually, I'd like to watch Shang-Chi again.
Do you know what? So we went to see it in cinema.
Yeah.
A few months later, it was on Disney Plus, and I was like, "Oh, Christina, do you want to watch Shang-Chi?" She was like, I'm not really sure. How good is it? And I was like, it's really good. It's the best Marvel film for years, in my opinion. Like since like Endgame stuff.
Yeah.
And so we sat down and watched it, and at the end she was like, "This is one of my favorite Marvel films ever." And I was like,
it's cool.
"Yeah, it's really good."
I think the only thing with it for me is I would like to see those characters interact with other ones and see how that goes. But because it's very on its own, it is this own. I think at the time I was looking for cross kind of interaction.
Get Wong and Abomination
and Bruce Banner and Captain Marvel standing there.
Yeah, so I presume we'll see more Shang-Chi mixed with the others.
Yes,
from
hopefully
here on out.
sooner rather than later.
And hopefully Aquafina as well, the fact that she went with them. Because she's a fun character.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing I've ever seen her in, to be honest. I don't
agree.
I watched it's called Bad Neighbours 2 here, but in other places it's just called Neighbours because they don't have the Australian syndicated sitcom Neighbours.
Which is coming to an end, isn't it?
I think it's stopping broadcasting here. And it's still going to be made, but we're a bigger audience than Australia, so it's going to end, basically. Anyway, she's one of because it's called Sorority Rising or something. It's the sorority sequel to... Anyway.
Yeah,
the first one's quite good.
I have seen it, because Zac Efron comes back, but he's now older, isn't he?
Yeah, and they're all like, you're an old person. He's like 30, maybe. I think he's like 25. But yeah, she's one of them, and she's very much in the era of like doing the black scent, where it's like, she's like, doing lots of like yo and like she's got like a backwards hat on. It's very cringy. She's not really memorable. I had to be like, oh, that's Aquafina. So, she's
forgot
much better
she was in that.
I had never seen it, and I spotted her, and I thought, how you've grown.
But yeah, so
Uncle
calls and he's like, I've got a spell that will get what was his name, the villain, Shendu out of Jade's body. So Jackie jumps onto the roller coaster cart.
He says, put Jade on.
And because she's a child, he just grabs her and
just puts the phone to
she can't do anything, and puts the phone to his ear.
And then it's the same. So the funny there is always the same incantation. It's always Umo Gui Guai Phi Beat Sao or something like that. They say it a lot in the show.
Right. He's just like dancing around the house with like a feather duster and
he's got like weird stuff. And then Shendu kind of gets banished out of the body, doesn't he?
And then Ghost Jade jumps back into her body. And kind of wakes up and is like, but Jackie's kind of pissed with her. He's like, you lost a talisman, like every single one of these is valuable. You lost it. And then that's the end of the episode.
Yes. And then he's like, oh, but it's also down to you that we didn't lose the rest of them in section 13.
Yes.
And then it's kind of like,
well, it's more down to Black than her. So, but on Black.
And then the bit at the end we get is Jackie's like working out with one of those things with the sticks that you hit. And and Jade's voice goes, oh, who do you admire and why? And he's like, oh, I admire loads of people. And then he starts talking about, he says, mainly Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, and he starts praising like CGI, and he's like, people who can make things with computers is so good. He's like, they don't have to do the action like me and like hurt yourself. It's so good they can make a computer person.
That's a
And he starts
surprising.
talking about dinosaurs and stuff. And then he's something like do when he's pretending to do the computer. It's quite a sweet little bit. But yeah, it's almost the opposite of what you'd imagine he's saying.
Yeah.
I imagine because he probably, I don't know if he still feels the same about like Marvel blockbusters and stuff now.
I feel like Jackie Chan is a sort of person, like, because he's put so much time and effort into his work.
Yeah.
He probably appreciates
That's
people
kind of
who
what
spend a
he's-
lot of time and effort
Yeah,
into
he's
their
saying
work.
like I'd never be able to do that. Obviously, they wouldn't be able to do what he does either. But
Yeah.
it's appreciating another art form, I suppose. isn't
Yeah,
it? He's an entertainer through and through, isn't he? 'Cause
yeah, exactly.
came from like opera and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, so he would like seeing these people make these amazing films.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me.
And then we get at the very end, over the credits, a song which I had never heard before, which I don't know if you saw the trivia about this.
Nope.
So I read it straight from here. Rock band Wheatus recorded a theme song called Jackie Chan's The Man, which would play during the end credits. However, during credit titles on the Kids WB network, they put promotion for other shows, so it was never actually on any of the live airings,
Right.
but it was still credited in the credits. But apparently, if you watch the Spanish language version on Telemundo Saturday mornings, you can hear the song in English. So I've no idea how I managed to watch a version unless
I
someone
think
edited
the
it together.
copy I watched was Telemundo, but it
was
cut before the credits.
Right, okay. It might be a case of when they do those double things where you can change the language while it's playing.
Yeah.
You know, like you can press the like language button on. I've grabbed the remote for all the viewers to have a little look.
For all the viewers. All our thousands of
All
viewers.
the listeners. No, there's not currently.
I'm pointing at you. I'm pointing at you.
We can hear the crowd going wild.
Yep. That guy just winked at me. He's a favourite viewer of mine. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
I saw an interesting thing about laugh tracks recently. A TikTok about a guy who worked in the TV industry for years.
Right.
And he's like, we all hate laugh tracks, right?
Mhm.
Like everyone hates them. But he was like, he's worked on loads of TV shows, and he said quite often they do like a test screening,
Yeah.
put it in front of a crowd, and they're like, yeah, like they have the little dial you see in like The Simpsons,
Right.
and he's like, people with no laugh track, people are like, yeah, I liked it, it's pretty funny, and their average like feeling towards the show was like 6, and then we did it laugh tracked, and people come out being like, I liked it, but I hated the laugh track, that was really annoying, but their average score was like 8. So it's like,
almost like a necessary evil.
yeah, so he's like, everyone hates it.
Because people are like, oh, it's so dumb. Like, I would be able to laugh without it. But it does give that indication for.
Yeah, I think as well, it does also give you a moment to laugh without missing the next line of dialogue and stuff.
Yeah, because some shows, like even certain Simpsons episodes, when they're in the kind of peak one, they're very fast moving with some of the jokes, and especially visual gags and stuff like that. Yeah.
Gilmore Girls.
We know how fast moving it is. It's because they didn't have enough time to do the script.
I looked into it, and that's
not
just
true.
not the case.
No, I don't know where I heard that, but it's a thing that people think.
I mean,
right?
it is like they do talk fast, but I think it's less that they talk fast and more they're just really quick, like witty, like pop culture references. Like
right, okay.
they like as soon as someone says something, they come back with a really pop culture quick reference. I think that just gives
right
quick thinking. Gilmore Boy for life.
So do we normally do trivia before ratings?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So have you got anything else?
My only bit of trivia is that the episode title is a reference to the Jackie Chan film Project A. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I've heard of Project A too, so my memory doesn't go back so far. So I may have,
well, we also episode 3
was Project A, yeah,
of the Project.
It
kind of would have made sense if Project A was episode 1.
Yeah, I think I don't really know what the discussion was there, to be honest.
I'm pretty sure you decided.
Probably, yeah. I think I thought, Lewis likes dinosaurs.
Yeah, it's a shame that film wasn't very good.
There's a couple more dinosaur ones that we could do at some point.
Is there?
Yeah, there's one called like Project Jurassic or something like that. The poster is awful. I'm so excited. It's like a
Oh,
beach, and there's like a woman running away from a dinosaur.
nice. Cool.
I've got a couple of credits, couple of trivia bits.
Go for it.
The character of Uncle is based on Charles Chan, who's Jackie's father. So he's based
Makes
it on his
sense.
dad. Opening sequence took almost a year to develop.
Bloody hell.
I guess partly because it's quite
Because they're animating him doing stuff.
it's quite a condensed
yeah.
sequence as
And
well.
it's
like
a mix of
animation.
live action and animated.
We didn't
But
really
still-
talk about the animation style. It's quite an interesting kind of almost cell shaded, but kind of
Yeah.
a little bit stylized, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of got that style of like Samurai Jack.
Yes.
The guy who also did Clone Wars animated.
Yeah. Tarkovsky.
Yeah, Tartakovsky.
Tarkovsky. Gendy Tarkovsky.
Yeah, that kind of style.
Yeah,
Obviously, they don't
yeah.
look the same, but that, like the outlines
Yeah.
and the way they move is quite reminiscent of that.
Yeah, it's kind of because that's a little bit more stylized than this. But it's,
Yeah.
even like a lot of the backgrounds are kind of like not matte paintings, but it's that kind of flat, stylized with like weird lines, kind of indicating detail and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely like almost like it's fairly unique.
Yes.
Especially of its time. Like it's a similar era
Yeah.
Zeta Project.
Yeah, and it looks much better than Zeta
Yeah,
Project,
and
I
it's
would say.
6 years
'Cause-
earlier than Blue Earth.
So Zeta Project, I particularly complained about the kind of flat looking animation style.
Yeah.
This has a similar thing, but like it feels intentional rather than cheap.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of shading.
Zeta
and stuff,
Project looks
but
a lot cheaper than this.
yeah,
did.
and Zeta's a spin-off of Batman Beyond, which
Yeah,
looks
and this
quite
is
good.
Jackie Chan. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. Did you get any numbers for budget and stuff? 'Cause
no, it's for like a TV series. It's always a bit harder.
yeah, we can't really judge it as well. But I imagine it's Warner Brothers Kids was involved.
Yeah.
in
What
this.
channel was it on?
WB Kids, which I think in the UK it was like a Disney one that we got it on.
I was gonna say I
No,
wasn't.
Fox something. I don't know, but
I wasn't really aware of this as a kid.
no. So I remember my grandparents had cable or Sky or whatever. It would have been Sky, not cable. Sky, which is like satellite TV basically in the UK.
Yeah.
And I remember going there when I was really young, around the year 2000 kind of thing. So I would have been like 7, maybe
Right.
8. And watching this and getting really into it and not having the when I got home kind of thing. And then we had Sky TV for like a year when I was growing up.
Right. See,
so, yeah,
when I was that
dipped in
age,
and out of it.
we had Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon as like the main two.
Right. So you would have, if you'd gone on another channel, you probably would have seen, because it would have been on the same kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, although I didn't have the Disney Channel because me and Christine have had that conversation. A lot of stuff
Right,
she watched
okay.
when she was younger was on the Disney Channel, and I never watched the Disney Channel.
I didn't either. I think I had it at one point for a very small amount of time, but I didn't really like it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I remember I was mostly a Nickelodeon boy, but also I remember when it got late in the evening, Cartoon Network was good because it'd have
Yeah.
like older cartoons.
Was that Toonami? No, that was
No,
something else,
but it'd
yeah.
have later on things like what's the what's the one where it's the road race?
Wacky Races.
Wacky
Yeah,
Races.
yeah.
And the one with the Danger Mouse, like
Yes,
those
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
older.
I think we've
Fun
got a
stuff.
Danger Mouse with Project. I think. at
Yeah,
some
I'm pretty
point
sure we
had.
do. I'm
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
looking forward to that with our older David Jason.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you have any more trivia?
No, that's it. There, really.
Cool. Shall we
So-
do ratings then?
Yeah. I mean, I personally, I haven't really thought about it. I think, as I said at the start, I don't think, despite this being kind of a weirdly good introduction, because some of the backstory we get in this, not just a bit of Shendu and stuff, and they explain the talismans and stuff. I don't think it's the best example because it's a Jade episode, and it's
Yeah.
there's some great episodes where there's one where they go to like Mexico,
Kind
and-
of like what we had with Devilman, where
yeah,
you could tell
very,
there's
very
more
similar,
to it,
yeah.
but the central thing is a side
Very
character.
similar. Like there's ones where they go to Mexico. There's like a luchador who has a talisman in his mask that gives him strength, and they have to try and convince him to take it up and stuff like that.
Right.
Because and there's like a cat burglar who has like the invisibility talisman and stuff.
Nice.
And it builds to the kind of thing, the thing that I miss when we're talking about powers, Infinity Gems is a very example of this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of collecting different things to a bigger whole. Anyway, the story goes in really cool places. I don't think this is the best example. So I think this is probably, as an episode, I don't know, like a 7, I would say. It's a bit of maybe I'll stick with a 7. I've said it now.
Yeah,
but I think
enough.
the show in itself, like, I would stand by it being like solid. I was gonna say 9 or a 10. I like this show, as you can probably tell.
I've kind of got that opinion.
Yeah.
So I obviously never watched as a kid. So this is the only thing I've seen. The episode, it was very kind of, here's the problem.
Yeah.
Now it's solved kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's very quick, and it doesn't, because it's such a short thing, nothing has time to breathe. So it was kind of like meh for me.
Yeah, it's one of it's coming
I think what made it stood out more than other cartoons of that kind of style is the Jackie Chan, kung fu, like gymnastic stuff.
The
choreography,
it does almost feel
really
like
fun.
They've motion capped it in some ways. I don't think they had done,
and it feels very Jackie Chan, despite being like animated, and you can tell that he was involved with a lot. Which makes me say it's probably better than other stuff of that. But at the same time, the episode wasn't fantastic, so I think I'm going to give it a 6.
Yeah, fair enough.
But as I could tell from that, there's clearly better episodes of this.
Well, we spoke about it last week with the Zagarino project, but it made me think, if there's a program out there that I would do a full episode by episode rundown of, that has like a fairly limited run, 95. This limited. And because they're 20-minute episodes, you could do some sort. This is the kind of thing that would be me all over.
Instead, we're stuck doing the Zeta Project and Project Blue Earth SOS.
I like the pause there, but never say never. If this old game gives up its ghost, then
we got a murder suicide schedule before that.
Yeah, exactly. There's the ghost there. Which one of us is going to be the evil ghost?
Well, I presume the one that does the murder suicide.
And the other one will be the friendly ghost.
Yeah, old Casper, the old nearly headless Sam.
Oh, so you're going to kill me? You're going to almost kill me then?
If that's
almost cut my head off, and then I'll be nearly headless Sam.
Yeah.
You've let your plans
But I'll only do that as I'm defending myself from you murdering me.
Right, but then I'm still the good ghost. You said good ghost. Anyway.
But yeah, that is Jackie Chan Adventures Project A for Astral.
Yes.
Which means it is time for
Personal Projects.
It's personal projects.
So I've got kind of a backdated list of stuff I was going to talk
got a couple of bits here.
Which is handy considering we're recording so close to the last episode.
I know, yeah, it's worked out very well.
So in our last episode, I gave you an option of 1 or 2, which one to talk about, because we were a bit short for time.
That's right.
The other one that you didn't pick was The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh my god!
Which I watched the other night.
What did you think of
I haven't seen it in years.
Oh, you have seen it before again?
I think I saw it when I was young.
Yeah.
I'd kind of forgotten all of it.
Yeah. The film that made Sean Connery give up acting.
Yes, because he turned down
Yes.
The Matrix and Lord of the Rings because he didn't understand the script. He didn't understand this script, so he was like, "I'll do it.
I'll do it anyway. I've done it's the third strike."
I can tell why people hate it, but it is a bit of like fun, isn't it?
I mean, I've mentioned before, there's things that I watched as a kid that are not good that I like. Daredevil, something else, but I kind of stand by this. I think it's got that weird kind of like, and it's kind of gothic, but like in a bit of a
I told Christina that I was watching League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and she was like, "What's that again?" I was like, "Oh, it's Sean Connery. It's a bunch of like classic characters team up,
like literary characters,
like Jekyll and Hyde, the Invisible Man,
Tom
Sawyer,
it's Mina Harkness, who's like a very."
Dorian Gray, all that. And she was like, "Oh, I didn't think it was that at all." She thought it was like a horror film.
Oh, really?
Not realizing it. And she was like, "It's like a novel version of the Avengers." And I was like, "Yeah, pretty much." Cause it is like a superhero film, essentially.
It's funny that it is kind of the Avengers. however many years
And
before,
it's
12
funny.
years before.
It's funny that since then they've tried to kick off the Dark Universe, Monsterverse, so many times.
Yeah.
With like the Mummy and Dracula Untold and things like that. It's like they actually had the
They
Avengers
kind of did
once.
it straight up. Yeah.
Imagine if they'd done that and then did a Captain Nemo film, a Dorian Gray film, and Mina Harkness film. Like all of them separately after.
Yeah.
It could have been quite fun.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun film.
I think it's quite fun, and they do. It's kind of like weirdly steampunky, and they do some weird stuff with World War One. That's kind of like alternate. Is it World War One? Yeah, someone wants to start the First World War, isn't it?
Yeah,
but like I think it's like
it's
10, it's like 10 years
it's set
or so
like turn of
before.
the century.
Yeah, so it's too early for the war.
There's like Germans being killed and Brits being killed, and it's like it's actually these villains who
are just like unrelated, and it's a guy who looks like a burned like Rasputin guy.
He's simultaneously the Phantom of the Opera, M from James Bond, and Moriarty.
Yeah, it's all that kind of thing. Yeah,
which is funny to combine those three characters.
You know what they should have done is had Sherlock Holmes in there, but I mean, first of all, it's based on the Alan Moore graphic novels, which is another thing that made Alan Moore lose faith in adaptations of his stuff.
Yeah,
I think the comics are quite different, which is another reason it wasn't received very well.
Yeah, a bit darker, aren't
I think
they?
so. I think
in true Alan Moore style.
I think the Mr. Hyde is like a cannibal and like a rapist and stuff like that. It's very like edgy for the sake. But I think it's the same artist who did like a lot of Hellboy stuff. So that kind of stylized, kind of darkish yellow, blacks and reds kind of palette there. I'd never read any. I might read some now, actually.
Yeah, I think it'd be quite fun too.
Yeah.
But what have you been watching, doing, playing, reading?
I'll do the old 1-2 with you as well. So 1 or 2.
Oh, 2.
2. I watched Old, the M. Night Shyamalan film.
Right, I've never seen it.
Yeah.
Is there a big twist towards the end?
Kind of.
In true M. Night Shyamalan.
I mean, do you know anything about it?
No.
So basically, there's a beach that makes you old.
Are you sure you didn't watch The Beach?
No.
Okay.
They had 2 options for the name, and one of them had been picked already. It was The Beach or Old.
Right.
But it's basically a family go to this resort. They go, oh, we found it on the internet, and it's like, yeah. Of course, everyone finds everything on the internet now. It turns out they got like a spam invite, which is very dodgy, of like a free holiday. The acting is awful. The 2
who's in it?
Pretty much no. The guy.
When you say the guy, I'm just saying it's a pretty well unknown cast.
A couple of small actors. You know who actually is in it? The guy who plays the Nazi in Man in the High Castle.
Oh, the John Smith character. The character is called John Smith.
He's like in the first few episodes, which is all I've seen. He's like the main bad guy.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, him. I'm just looking at the cast now.
And the younger girl is in Jojo Rabbit.
Right, I also haven't seen that yet.
The guy is in Hereditary.
Also haven't seen
you
that.
Seen that?
I'm looking. I'm looking through the cast.
Basically,
now,
they end up on this beach, and they realize very quickly that the kids who were like 6 and 8 are now like teenagers, and time is passing really quickly. They have to deal with it over the course of like a day and a night because the the people are going to die.
It's got Ken Leung in it. Who was in
Inhumans,
and Lost.
That's right. And the lady who plays his wife, I recognise as well, but I think she's English. I don't recognise what she's from. Anyway, there's a bit of a twist at the end, which I won't spoil because it's just, if you watch it, you watch it. But they're like, this was the reason why this all happened. And M. Night Shyamalan, I think he makes cameos in all his films. He's in it quite a lot in this film. So he's just like,
he's done like
a
Tarantino
He's
cameo.
like, he's the one who takes them to the beach and he's like, here's all the food. And they're like, why is there so much food? Turns out because the kids need food because they're going to grow a lot. So they're going to need to eat a lot of food. Stupid. He then also is at the end, like doing some exposition stuff. It's very silly. It's quite fun though. It's only an hour and a half and it was on a streaming service I've got. So I just thought, fuck it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I watched it.
Nice. Other thing I watched recently was Murder on the Orient Express.
I watched it too.
Excellent.
That's not my other one, but I was going to mention it a week ago.
I had seen it before.
I'd never watched it before.
But I saw that the Death on the Nile is on Disney Plus. So I was like, I'm gonna rewatch.
I almost watched that as well. I haven't watched it yet.
I really like Murder on the Orient Express. I think it's really fun.
I think it's a little bit overcomplicated, but
it's kind of intentionally that.
Yeah, I didn't
realise the reveal.
Yeah. I don't. Should we go into spoilers? We might as well.
Sure.
We'll spoiler tag it now for people. So.
Yeah. So I forgot who did it.
I didn't. It rang a bell like as it was ending. I was like,
yeah.
Okay.
And then it got to the end, and they're all sitting there like the Last Supper.
Yes,
I was like, oh, I remember now. They all did it
because he's like racking his brains because none of the clues point to any one person because they all did it. It's fucking dumb, and also
I think it's really good.
But the actual plot their plot themselves is stupid because first of all, the person who stabs like the first few stabs. They're the murderers. The last person, who's the one who wants to do she didn't do the killing blow. He's dead after 12.
Michelle Pfeiffer,
yeah. Do you know what I mean? In that sense.
But I like the slow reveal of how they were all connected.
Yeah.
And that Johnny Depp was actually this Cassetti guy.
I did think it was stupid when they all kept having connections to this family that went, but then it makes sense because they're all there on purpose.
Yeah. And I like the fact that it's Johnny Depp. He's a bit of a slime ball.
Yeah.
And then he would be the number one suspect, but he's not. And you're like, Johnny Depp. It's a cast of big names, but he's arguably the biggest
because he's being like a bit of a sleazeball, like you say.
Yeah,
he even pulls a gun out at one point.
Yeah, because he's trying to get Poirot to be his bodyguard.
Yeah.
I think Kenneth Branagh's Poirot is brilliant.
He is good. Yeah,
I like over the top moustache.
The moustache that is both like it's almost like lamb chops as well. It's like, and he wears like a moustache guard when he's sleeping.
Yeah,
and like
great.
Willem Dafoe's in it, who we talked about all the time.
Yeah,
like
Daisy Ridley, who came up.
She's in it a little
Project alumni.
She's actually in something else that I watched in a very small medium role.
But yeah, it's good fun, and
I'm looking forward to the next one. Yeah,
it's on Disney Plus, so
I'll
probably watch it at some point soon. Like the only reason I haven't watched it is because I think Christina would probably want to watch it, and she's had COVID. So
she watched the first one together.
Yeah, like she likes like murder mysteries. She likes Kenneth Branagh, so
cool. No brainer then, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
But yeah, it's quite good. I do like a good murder mystery. I feel like there's not enough murder mystery films.
Yeah.
Like Knives Out was brilliant.
That's true, yeah. And it's that kind of thing, isn't it? It's the ensemble cast. I mean, Knives Out 2, I'm very much looking forward to.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Spoons in.
More I watched another murder mystery a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, oh, it's that One of Us Is Lying TV series that I mentioned on pod. And after that I was like, I want more murder mystery stuff. And there's just not a lot of it out there.
Yeah.
Especially stuff that's good. But yeah, that is my personal projects for the week.
I've got one more before we call it an episode. And it is the film that came out recently on Netflix, the Judd Apatow directed film, The Bubble.
Right. Is it very Judd Apatow?
I don't think it is. People say it is. It's not like, oh, there's a schlubby guy who gets with a girl and he's a stoner and he's played by Seth Rogen and or Jason Segel. It's not anything like that. So it has a lot of his regulars. It's got Leslie Mann, who's his wife. It's got, what's she called? I can't remember what she's called, but his daughter's in it as well, something Apatow. And it's got a great cast. It's got Karen Gillan is pretty much the lead in it. We've got Pedro Pascal. We've got David Duchovny. We've got, as I said, Daisy Ridley makes a very strange small cameo in it.
Right.
We've got Guz Khan, who you'd recognise, the British comedian.
Oh, yes. No. What was it called again, this film?
The Bubble.
Yeah.
Because basically the premise is it's like the sixth, they're filming like the sixth iteration of what's basically Jurassic Park.
So I saw a poster for this on Reddit a while ago and saw all the people. It
says Cliff Beast 6. Is it that one there?
Yeah, and I saw like the list of names in it, like Keegan-Michael Key,
yes, that's
Pedro
right.
Pascal, Peter Serafinis. and then just Guz Khan is on the end. And I was like, what the fuck is
Well, the
Guz
weird
Khan
thing
doing
is,
in this film?
You know, we talked about Army of the Dead, and then there was the Army of Thieves, which was the weird spin-off directed by this other guy who wasn't. Guz Khan's in that, and I feel like he's got like both a Netflix deal and also some really good manager who's getting him these roles
He's got
in Hollywood.
the best, because I only know
I was
him.
thinking about this afterwards. I was literally thinking the same thing as that.
Like, I only really know him from Taskmaster.
Yes,
where he's a bit of like a lovable fool.
Yeah.
And then to see him in this like big Hollywood film with all these stars,
I
was
know,
like,
yeah.
How's Guz Khan
We've
wrangled
also
this?
we've got Kate McKinnon's in it from SNL. We've got Fred Armisen, who you'd probably recognize from some sketches and stuff. Rob Delaney, Peter Serafinowicz is in it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Basically, anyway, they're supposed to be filming the 6th iteration of this Jurassic Park kind of parody, basically. But it's real in their world. It's parody for us, and it's during the COVID pandemic, so it's set in 2020 or 2021.
Yeah, COVID film.
And they all have to go to isolation in this British manor house to film. So they're in a bubble, basically, as the name suggests. And it's basically everything falls to shit. They're treated badly. Accidents happen. Relationships happen. And it's quite... It gets dark, but like in a darkly comic way.
So
it's
one plot point I do want to know.
Yes.
Does Guz Khan sleep with Karen Gillan?
No, Karen Gillan does sleep with someone who I won't spoil, but it's not anyone that you know. I don't think they're playing kind of a pastiche of kind of sports players. I think
someone's read a dictionary today.
I don't know where that came from, but thank you. Also, Beck's in it, and also James McAvoy is in it at some point.
Oh, of course,
as himself.
I'm surprised it has lots of weird cameos.
Yes,
in a film written around them being in a bubble. Right? Do you know what I mean?
The Daisy Ridley cameo is so weird. I feel like I want to tell you.
No, go ahead, go.
Basically, Pedro Pascal is playing like he's the bad guy in the fictional film, and he's signed on for this iteration. He's like a bit of like James Franco, like takes himself very seriously, but is a bit of like a fuckhead kind of character.
Right.
He does a lot of drugs in his like room, and then he's trying to sleep with one of the people at the hotel. Anyway, he gets really horny, and he takes like magic mushrooms or acid or something, and he's got, you know, have you seen those mirrors that are like also a screen and you can do workouts, and there's like a little the little person on the screen is Daisy Ridley. So she's like literally like she's like a foot tall on his screen, and then because he's like horny and he's taken magic mushrooms, she starts being like, oh, you should have sex with me, and she's saying all this like horny stuff in like an American accent, and then he like goes into the mirror and starts having sex with her. But you only see it from like the outside perspective, so you can just see like Daisy Ridley's legs up in the air, and it's like, and then she's in it like right at the very end in like the wrap up as the real. It's very strange, and it really speaks to that whole like she's not getting any parts. Like she agreed to be in this film. Maybe she had some parts cut, but it was just. It might be like, oh, that'll be fun to do one day of shooting
because
cameo. People are like, oh, Star Wars, lol, kind of thing.
Yeah,
but it just, I thought there was going to be more to it than that, and that she's in like 1.5 scenes at most. It's very strange, but yeah, it was a decent film. It's
is it on any streaming?
It's on Netflix. Yeah,
okay,
it's Netflix
cool.
Original. So yeah, I think we were a little bit hungover on a Saturday morning. Just watched that. Very much that kind of program.
Cool. So that seems to be like a good place to call an end to the show.
It does indeed.
If you enjoyed what you've just heard, it'd be really, really nice if you show your appreciation by giving us a rating on your podcasting listening platform. 5 stars goes a long way. I do say it every week, but it's also nice to see them, so I will keep saying it. And you, in particular, I know you're a bit and erring. Just do it. It takes a couple of seconds. Cheers, mate. But you can also talk to us directly, can't you, Sam?
That's right, yeah. If you want to get in contact with us via email, you can send us an email at theprojectpod@gmail.com. If you want to send us some recommendations for Jackie Chan Adventures episodes, If you want to tell us why our opinion is either right or wrong about something, please do reach us there.
If you think our opinion's wrong, it's probably just because we're satire.
Satirizing.
Yeah.
All our social medias are in the link tree in the episode description. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we are on TikTok, we are on Instagram, we're on Twitter. Or you can just search the project on those social medias. But until next week, we will say thank you for listening.
It's been a pleasure, and I will hear you next week.
And I will Yumo Gui Gui Phi Beat Sao you next week.
Nice.
Oh, see you. If I see you. That kind of worked, didn't it?
Does it?
Bye.